She said, Chana, can you please help me understand this? There are people who are full of light, but they don't have Torah and mitzvahs. And then there are people who have Torah and mitzvahs, but they seem to be full of darkness. If that's the case, why, right? This isn't intellectual. This is good. Let's stick with it. Yeah. Let's not be afraid of the question. It's a great question. If that's the deal, that there are people who are just so good and full of light without Torah and mitzvahs, and then there are people who have Torah and mitzvahs and they're not full of light, why should one have Torah and mitzvahs? Why is that necessarily better than not? An analogy that you may be able to give her is, imagine if you see, okay, marriage, right? Because it always comes back to marriage. It's about the relationship. Is marriage a good thing? That is necessary. It stabilizes a person. It opens up a person. It connects a person to another person in a way that no other relationship can ever do. So marriage is something unique. And when a person does a marriage right, they have something in their life that there's no way to have in any other way. Marriage is something that when a person is in a marriage, they have something that there's no way to have in any other relationship. That contentment, that wholeness, the grounding, to be in a marriage, when you're in a marriage the right way, when you're connected, when you're truly bonded with your spouse, there's nothing like it. So now, what if a young person comes to you and says, what are you talking about? I see all these single women running around New York City, and they're high, and they're in glamorous heels, and they're happy, and they're flitting from man to man every night, and they drink at bars, and they're having such a good time. They go dancing, and they're free. Nothing's tying them down. They don't have any kids to take care of, any husband they have to answer to. And on the other hand, I see all my married friends, they're always complaining that they have to make dinner and that they are not free to travel the way they used to because now they have to, and they're unhappy. And is it an either or? Meaning, yes, there are people who are very unhappily married, and there are people in very unhappy marriages. And there are people who are very bad in their marriages. And even though they're technically married, they don't even care about their spouse. They don't notice him. They ignore him. They don't treat him properly. They don't even care if he's there or not. Some people are only in it for themselves, like maybe the money that he gives me, the house that he gives me, the financial stability he gives me. Does that mean that marriage is bad and singlehood is good? And then the other thing is, can you not find people who are in marriages who actually are doing it properly, who therefore have a wonderful marriage? Those who try every day to be considerate of their spouse, who do notice their spouse, who make time for conversations every day, who make time to be together as a family at least once a week. Who, when they're in the store, they think, oh, I'm going to buy this because my husband loves this. So yes, you find a lot of people in miserable marriages, and you find people who are really miserable people, meaning bad people, bad as in they're, inconsiderate and rude. But we're conflating so many things that don't have a bearing on each other. Having a relationship with God is like a marriage. Can you do it miserably? Yes, you can. You can be in that marriage with God and you could be a horrible wife. You could even ignore that God exists completely. You could even bumble all your prayers every day, but not even remember that there's a God who's on the other end listening. You could do it like a checklist, like a wife who's like, I made him breakfast, I made him lunch, I made him dinner, I cleaned his clothing. What else could he possibly want? I'm a perfect wife. Well, really? So just because someone's quote unquote religious, I did this, I did that, I did the other, does that mean they're a good wife? Does that mean they're thinking about their husband, wife within, between us and God? I mean, they're even thinking about the other half of their soul, about God? But what's the difference here? Commitment does count for something. Meaning, even if a woman spends 60 years of her life being a terrible wife, meaning praying wife to God, right? Praying every day, doing the mitzvahs, keeping Shabbos, never making a mistake, blah, 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 blah. One day, when she learns a little insight that she didn't have insight, she didn't have access to before. She heard something on the internet from a rabbi that finally touched her heart. As one of you said, it didn't reach the heart yet, right? One day when she finds something that reaches her heart, everything will burst out of her. Like, that's who I've been serving all these years. That's who I've had the honor to serve all these. I didn't even know like how lucky I was. So then the entire marriage, like the entire relationship to God, will open up. The closeness will come flooding in. The softness will reach her heart. She'll become a nicer person, both to God and to others. And all those years will not have been in vain, because all those years will be redeemed. Because she still had spent the time doing those things for God, even though she wasn't aware, and therefore there wasn't joy in her life, and there wasn't the softness and the intimacy, the relationship. So just because our people have horrible marriages, it doesn't mean that marriage is a horrible thing. Marriage is the most important institution for every human being on this planet. Marriage is family. Marriage is sanity. Marriage is home. And when you're really doing it right, marriage is intimacy, closeness. It's being bonded to another person on a level that's not available in any other relationship. This is my person and I am his. And that's the same with God. Marriage with God, entering that relationship, you could be on high heels running around from bar to bar every night. You could be very happy. You could think you're very happy. But that's not the ultimate. The ultimate is find real intimacy in your life with a fellow human being who you will share the experiences of your life. So this woman who's asking, but these people live in darkness and these people live in light. First of all, as Aviva said, not everything that's light is actually light. Single people make it look a heck of a lot of fun. Not everything that's correct will be filled with light either. Meaning just because you're in a marriage doesn't mean you will fill your marriage with light. Just because someone is religious doesn't mean they'll fill their life with godliness. Sometimes they fill their life with other things that look religious, like habit. Just because you're living your life a religious way, it doesn't mean you're filling your home and your body and yourself and your light and your life and your family with godliness. Okay, again, just because you're living a religious life doesn't mean you're filling up your life with godliness.
Listen.
So worth it, endeavor. One second. It's worth it to endeavor to have a marriage with God, but learn from the right people. Learn from people who have a happy marriage with God. Learn from people who are not ignoring Hashem, who are doing it intentionally, who are welcoming Him in life. Let them be your marriage mentors. Let them be your mentors to a relationship with God.